What if I told you the men who founded America weren't just revolutionaries? They were initiates of an ancient order? That the Constitution wasn't just a political document, but a coded blueprint for something far more profound? The signatures on the Declaration of Independence weren't just names, they were symbols, markers of men who knew secrets about human consciousness that we're only beginning to rediscover today. Tonight, we're going to explore the hidden history of America's founding fathers. Not the version you learned in school, not the sanitized stories of George Washington and the cherry tree. We're going to ask the questions no one wants answered. Why were so many founders members of secret societies? What ancient knowledge did they encode into America's founding documents? And most disturbing of all, is it possible that America itself was designed as an experiment in human consciousness? In 1934, a historian named Manly Palmer Hall published a book that would shake the foundations of American history. Hall wasn't your typical academic. He was initiated into over 40 secret societies, spoke 7 languages, and had access to archives that most scholars could only dream of. His research led him to a shocking conclusion. America wasn't founded by Christian patriots fleeing religious persecution. It was established by members of an ancient brotherhood who had been planning this new Atlantis for over 150 years before Columbus even set sail. Hall's work was dismissed by mainstream historians. They called him a conspiracy theorist, a mystic, a fraud. But Hall had something they didn't: original documents from Masonic lodges, Rosicrucian archives, and private collections that had never seen the light of day. Documents that revealed Benjamin Franklin's true role as Grand Master of multiple lodges, letters showing Thomas Jefferson's obsession with ancient Egyptian mysteries, and most shocking of all, George Washington's secret initiation ceremonies that would make your blood run cold. The story begins not in 1776, but in 1606, when Sir Francis Bacon, philosopher, scientist, and rumored leader of the Rosicrucians, wrote about establishing a new Atlantis in the Americas. This wasn't just political philosophy. Bacon believed that America would become the staging ground for the next evolution of human consciousness. Fast forward to the 1700s. In the back rooms of Philadelphia taverns, men gathered not just to discuss revolution, but to perform ancient rituals. Benjamin Franklin's Junto Club wasn't just a debate society. It was modeled after Pythagorean mystery schools. The meetings began with invocations to the grand architect of the universe. They studied sacred geometry, alchemy, and what they called the science of human perfectibility. Consider this: of the 56 men who signed the Declaration of Independence, at least 9 were confirmed Freemasons. But researchers like Hall found evidence suggesting the number was closer to 50. George Washington took his presidential oath on a Masonic Bible. The cornerstone of the Capitol building was laid in a full Masonic ceremony, complete with corn, wine, and oil, symbols dating back to Solomon's Temple. Let's examine the evidence hidden in plain sight. The Great Seal of the United States. That pyramid with the all-seeing eye? It's not Christian symbolism. It's directly lifted from Hermetic texts dating back to ancient Egypt. The Latin phrase, Novus Ordo Seclorum, New Order of the Ages, comes from Virgil's 4th Eclogue, which mystery schools interpreted as a prophecy about the return of the Golden Age. Washington, D.C.'s sacred geometry. The city's layout isn't random. Researcher David Ovison discovered that the entire Capitol is designed as a massive talisman. The streets form pentacles, hexagrams, and Masonic symbols visible only from above. The Washington Monument? It's an Egyptian obelisk, precisely 555 feet tall, numbers that resonate with Pythagorean sacred mathematics. The missing 13th Amendment. Here's something they don't teach in schools. The original 13th Amendment, ratified in 1819, stripped citizenship from anyone who accepted titles of nobility or honors from foreign powers. This included membership in certain European secret societies. By 1876, this amendment had mysteriously vanished from the Constitution. Coincidence? Or suppression? Benjamin Franklin's Occult Library. When Franklin died, his personal library contained over 4,000 books. Hidden among them were texts on alchemy, Kabbalah, and ritual magic. His handwritten notes in the margins reveal a man obsessed with immortality, electrical healing, and what he called the animation of matter through celestial fire. the apotheosis of Washington. Look up at the Capitol dome. That painting of Washington ascending to heaven surrounded by pagan gods, it's called the apotheosis of Washington, literally meaning Washington becoming a god. Why would a Christian nation depict its first president in a scene straight out of ancient Rome's mystery religions? But critics weren't convinced. Mainstream historians like Gordon Wood argued that Masonic membership in the 18th century was simply social networking, like joining a country club. They point out that Masonic lodges were places where men of different social classes could meet as equals. Nothing more mysterious than that. Skeptics note that many founding fathers were also devout Christians. How could they reconcile Christianity with pagan mystery traditions? Samuel Adams even tried to ban Masonic lodges in Massachusetts, calling them dangerous to Republican virtue. The evidence for widespread occult influence, they argue, is circumstantial at best. Symbols can be interpreted many ways. The pyramid on the dollar bill simply represents strength and duration. The all-seeing eye? Divine providence, nothing more. But what if the skeptics were wrong? What if they're looking at this through modern eyes, unable to understand how 18th century minds seamlessly blended Christianity with Hermetic philosophy? Consider Thomas Jefferson's Bible. He literally cut out every supernatural element, leaving only the moral teachings. Yet this same Jefferson designed his home, Monticello, according to sacred geometric principles and filled it with occult symbolism. Or take George Washington's letters to his fellow Masons, where he writes about the great work in raising the spiritual temple. These aren't metaphors, they're technical terms from alchemical texts about transforming human consciousness. There was one thing the critics didn't count on: the discovery of the secret vault beneath the house of the temple in Washington, D.C. in 1991. Inside that vault, researchers found documents that suggested something almost too incredible to believe. The Founding Fathers weren't just creating a new nation, they were conducting an experiment in mass consciousness manipulation. The document spoke of America as a laboratory for human evolution. They referenced ancient technologies of mind control through architecture, symbolism, and ritual. Most disturbing were the references to contact with the Nine, described as advanced beings who had guided human civilization since ancient Egypt. According to these texts, the founders believed they were in communication with these entities through ritual practices. Benjamin Franklin's experiments with electricity, they weren't just scientific, they were attempts to create a celestial telegraph to communicate with these beings. The Constitution itself, these documents claimed, was channeled during secret sessions where the founders entered altered states of consciousness. The specific wording, the structure, even the number of articles, all were supposedly dictated by these higher intelligences. This isn't the first time we've seen this pattern. Throughout history, great civilizations have claimed guidance from advanced beings. The ancient Sumerians wrote of the Anunnaki, who gave them laws and knowledge. The Egyptians spoke of the Neteru, gods who walked among men and taught them civilization. The Hindu Vedas describe the Devas who instructed humanity in cosmic law. Even more striking are the parallels in symbolism. The Sumerian winged disc appears on early American coins. The Egyptian ankh shows up in Masonic aprons worn by the founders. The Hindu concept of dharma, cosmic law, is eerily similar to the laws of nature and nature's God referenced in the Declaration of Independence. Could it be that the same force that guided ancient civilizations was now establishing its newest experiment on virgin soil? But something went wrong. By the mid-1800s, the original vision was corrupted. The Civil War wasn't just about slavery. Occult researchers claim it was a battle between two factions of the Brotherhood. The Northern Lodges wanted to accelerate human evolution through industrial progress. The Southern Lodges wanted to maintain the ancient agricultural mysteries. The assassination of Lincoln, himself a student of the mysteries, marked the end of the original experiment. The secret knowledge was driven deeper underground. The symbols remained, but their meaning was lost. America became a nation that worshipped the shell of the mystery while forgetting its core. What if we lost our true destiny in that brutal war? What if America's spiritual mission was derailed, leaving us with only the material success, but none of the consciousness evolution the founders intended? Modern historians dismiss all of this as fantasy. They point out that Masonic rituals were published publicly in the 1820s, hardly secret. They note that the founders were men of the Enlightenment, devoted to reason over mysticism. Archaeologists find no evidence of ancient advanced civilizations. Linguists see no hidden codes in the Constitution. Psychologists explain mystical experiences as temporal lobe epilepsy or schizophrenia. But if this never existed, why do we find the same symbols on the dollar bill that appear in Egyptian tombs? Why did the founders choose 13 colonies, a number sacred to mystery schools? Why does the Washington Monument's height-to-base ratio match the Great Pyramid of Giza? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. Maybe the founders weren't in contact with ancient gods, but they did tap into something profound: archetypal patterns of human consciousness that transcend culture and time. The symbols they used might not be magical, but they do affect the human psyche in measurable ways. Studies show that exposure to certain geometric patterns can alter brainwave states. The architecture of Washington, D.C. might not channel cosmic energy, but it does create a sense of awe and power that shapes how we think about government. Or consider this: what if the founders' greatest secret was simply this, that humans could govern themselves without kings or priests? That consciousness could evolve through democratic participation? That might be the real great work they were attempting, but here's what should really make you question everything. If you're an American, you've been participating in this experiment your entire life. Every time you handle money, you're touching their symbols. Every time you vote, you're engaging in their ritual of consciousness. Your very identity as an American connects you to whatever force the founders were channeling, whether divine, alien, or archetypal. Do you really know what it means to be American? Is your consciousness being shaped by forces you don't understand? When you pledge allegiance to the flag, what exactly are you pledging to? What if the real secret of the Founding Fathers is that they succeeded, that they created a nation that would transform human consciousness, but in ways so subtle we don't even realize it's happening? The next time you look at a dollar bill, really look at it. See past the face value to the symbols that have been shaping your mind since birth. The pyramid, the eye, the eagle clutching 13 arrows and 13 olive branches. These aren't decorations. They're keys to a mystery that's been unfolding for 250 years. The Founding Fathers left us more than a nation. They left us a puzzle, a challenge, maybe even a warning. They knew something about human potential that we've forgotten. They saw possibilities that we've abandoned in our rush toward material progress. So I leave you with this question. What do you believe the Founding Fathers were really trying to create? Were they political revolutionaries? Or consciousness revolutionaries? Were they founding a nation, or initiating humanity into its next phase of evolution? The answer might change everything you think you know about being American, about being human, about being you. What do you believe?